Before we get to the show for today, I want to thank our sponsor, Anchor.fm. As you probably have heard by now, SportsWire has moved to Anchor.fm for its podcast hosting and distribution. It's the easiest way to make a podcast, and let me explain why. Main reason is that it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer, and then Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on any platform there is. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, anywhere. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So take it from me, Vinny Apicella from the Sports Wire. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to the most electrifying podcast in all of internet radio today. You are listening to the Sports Wire. Today is Saturday, November 2nd, 2019, and I am here with you, and I want to thank you all again for listening. Thank you for downloading, because ever since I switched to this daily format, I've been getting more listeners than ever before, and I appreciate it. So thank you very much for tuning in. We got a couple things to go over. I did finally get to finish watching NXT. I did watch the majority of SmackDown, the later half actually, and there's a lot to talk about with that as well. Coming off of, let's get started. Coming off of Crown Jewel, and what a historic event that was. Not only did you have the first ever undefeated boxing champion fight a WWE superstar in a ring and actually win with Tyson Fury over Braun Strowman. Well, you had the first ever female women's match in WWE history over in Saudi Arabia. Well, in Saudi Arabia history at a Saudi event when Natalya defeated Lacey Evans. And from what I've been told, part of the stipulations were that the two women that fought had to be married. I don't know why that's such a big deal, but apparently it was, which is why they went with Lacey and Natalya. Both of them are married. Apparently the original plan was for Natalya and Alexa Bliss, but again, this is all just rumor and innuendo and conjecture. I can't confirm nor deny that part of it. But either way, it was a great thing for Saudi Arabia to, allow the WWE to do that and, to take the next step towards westernization. It's going to take a lot of steps to get there. But, first they have to denounce that extreme Muslim culture. That's the first thing. And kind of get with the times, so to speak, brother. But regardless of the fact, it did happen and it was great. However, after the event, now I had made mention and I had tweeted that I felt bad for the SmackDown crew because there was very little time to get back to the States for SmackDown tonight, or last night, I guess I should say, because the Saudi Arabian flight is like 15 hours. And they had to get from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia to Buffalo, New York, which is halfway around the world. And it was going to be a long flight. Apparently, something happened. And I know for those of you that have been following Twitter, first of all, I got to say this. Don't ever get any news from Dave Meltzer or Brian Alvarez. They're both anti-WWE. They're both haters of the WWE. WWE can never do anything good in their eyes. and just don't ever get any information from them because it's all made up. It's all false. So the problem was, apparently right after the event, Brock Lesnar chartered his own flight. There were certain guys that chartered their own flights. Vince had his own corporate jet there, of course. But so they were all ready to leave. And the first flight that carried that carried a lot of the talent, some of the talent at least, was able to leave with about 20 people, 12 of them superstars. However, the rest of the superstars, the rest of the talent and the rest of the people, about 175 people in total, were stranded at the airport. And apparently there was some they were on the plane with the doors closed, ready to go, and they were sitting for 6 hours. Then they were told to get off the plane. Apparently there was some mechanical issues with the plane. The Atlantic Airways, I believe, is the name of the company that chartered the flights for the WWE superstars, for the WWE in general. They came out with a statement saying there were mechanical issues, and they wanted to get the plane fixed before, and inspected and certified before taking off, valuing the safety, which is great. The problem is that 95% of the SmackDown superstars on the card would not make it back in time for SmackDown tonight, seeing as they're cutting it so close anyways. So they were supposed to leave at 3 a.m. Saudi time. They never made it. So they were sent to hotel rooms. I guess the next thing they were supposed to take off at 8 p.m. Eastern time, meaning today. I don't know if that ever happened. Well, apparently Kofi Kingston tweeted that he's back home finally. There were some tweets. Buddy Murphy said never again. Rusev tweeted out, now is time for some real prayers. Then there was also Andrade said there's, a real problem here. So there were quite a few people who, really, were upset and they were stuck there. And granted, I get it. It's frustrating, especially when you have somewhere to be and other things scheduled. Unfortunately, plane issues happen. I get it. So apparently some of the guys chartered another jet, and that one had left. Maybe that one had left like earlier today. It got back around 9:30 tonight. That's the one Kofi was on. And then I guess the other one is still in the air now as we speak, I would assume, if it left at 8 o'clock Eastern time, and it's a 15-hour flight. So what did they do for SmackDown? Well, if you watch SmackDown, now, like I said, I missed the first beginning part. Apparently Brock Lesnar quit SmackDown with the WWE title, and he's going to go to Raw. I guess that rights the wrong from The Fiend winning the Universal title at Crown Jewel yesterday, and both titles being on SmackDown. So that did it. They traded the title for Brock Lesnar. So, okay, we all knew that Brock prefers working on Raw anyways, because the A show. Although now I'd venture to say NXT is the A show, but I digress. So anyways, tonight on SmackDown, there was an NXT invasion. With the announcement for the first time ever, Survivor Series is going to be Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT, with an ingenious move. And for people that say Vince McMahon is out of touch, you guys are pretty stupid. Okay? With that said, for those of you who think Vince McMahon is out of touch, he may be, but he's still got a lot of creative bone in his body. And between him, Bruce Pritchard, and Triple H put together a hell of a SmackDown. They had an NXT invasion, which rightfully so. I mean, the commentators for tonight were Tom Phillips, Renee Young, and Pat McAfee. It was rumored to be Aiden English. I don't know if that's how it started, but Pat McAfee, when I tuned in, was there. And, SmackDown was severely outnumbered because of the flight situation. The only main event stars that were there were Miz and Daniel Bryan, with the exception of the women. And it was an all-out, all-out brawl. NXT invaded. It was great. I have to say, they had Nikki Cross take on Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Championship, and that was cut short by NXT Women's Champion Shayna Baszler coming out from the crowd, attacking Bayley and putting her down. She attacked Sasha Banks, who was on the outside, and then Bayley putting her down. And then there was a segment where Sami Zayn was in the back, saying he didn't, going over his NXT accomplishments, and then he ran into Keith Lee and Matt Riddle, who I have to say, Matt Riddle has grown on me. I didn't like him at first because he kind of reminded me of a rip-off RVD, but just like a who cares attitude, kind of like a whatever, Although now I kind of see that's Orange Cassidy's character. So, and the thing is, like, Orange Cassidy, after his drop kick, couldn't even bend down to pick up or take his hands out of his pockets to pick up his glasses. The referee had to do and put it on his head. That's ridiculous. Anyways, with that said, I recommend you watch SmackDown on Hulu when it comes out, or the replay, whatever replay it's going to be. Definitely watch it. SmackDown was on fire. And you know what? I venture to say, because the NXT stars were on SmackDown tonight, look for NXT this Wednesday to beat AEW in the ratings. I'm going to predict that. I'm not going to say it's a guarantee, obviously, but I'm going to predict it. And that's the one difference between NXT and AEW, is that NXT has the WWE behind them, so there could be so many cross promotions and cross matches, and just having the NXT guys on another platform to promote the NXT show, whereas AEW, they have AEW Dark, but that's only on YouTube, and that's only the day before. So there's no other, they go on the indie shows and stuff, but even NWA has their cross promotions with NWA Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and whatever. But all I'm saying is, I would venture to say that NXT is going to be AEW in the ratings this Wednesday. And believe that. Okay, so before we get to the actual NXT show from this week, I'm going to take a quick break, and I will be right back. All right, again, thank you for listening. I am Vinny Apicella with the Sports Wire. You can find the Sports Wire on Anchor.fm, but you can also find it anywhere you find your favorite podcasts. You could find it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Radio.com. I'm working on getting iHeart updated, and Radio Public, Castbox, Deezer, Overcast. So many places to find our podcast. Thank you very much. And feel free to sponsor us. Feel free to just help us out and support the show. The link, I believe, is in the Anchor.fm profile. Anywho, I want to thank you all for listening again. I am Vinny Apicella, and I'm going to get to NXT from this week. I'm not going to do a really big, full recap. However, I will say this. The NXT show was great. Like, we've been going back and forth with NXT and AEW and who's got the better show, who's got the better whatever, the better show in general, the better wrestling. Nobody can deny that NXT has the better wrestling on all of the shows that have thus far been head to head. Okay? You can't deny that because it's the truth. All right? Secondly, I do want to say that this week's NXT show, again, was better than AEW. AEW had its good spots, especially the contract signing with Cody and and Jericho and the outside stuff with Jake Hager and Dustin Rhodes. But like I said, a lot of AEW was unwatchable, and especially because of the tag team matches and the obvious cooperation on spots, it just didn't make for good television, in my opinion, at least. So while high spots are good, you shouldn't have a guy just kind of standing in the middle of the ring just waiting. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of happened. And actually that happened on SmackDown tonight too, between when Adam Cole faced Daniel Bryan. Adam Cole was kind of groggy in the ring, just standing there, and Daniel Bryan came off the top rope. But, whatever. Again, I don't like that kind of stuff because it takes you out of the moment. But whatever. AEW does it a lot more often, especially the Young Bucks matches. But we're here to talk about NXT today. And with the Keith Lee and Matt Riddle tag team that took on the Undisputed Era in the main event, I guess Dominik Dijakovic, he had basically told Keith Lee, I'll be your tag team partner. I'm in. Pick me. But I guess Keith Lee's like, I can't trust him. And Matt Riddle and I have been friends for a while, so he went with Matt Riddle. Okay, whatever. It is what it is. So either way, and like I said, Matt Riddle has grown on me. He's a great athlete. I don't like the wrestling in bare feet. I never got that. I never understood it, even with Superfly Snuka and the head shrinkers, and I never got that. But whatever. The show was great. They also, another first for female, and this time for NXT, is the first female War Games match was announced by William Regal. It's going to be team captained by Shayna Baszler, NXT Women's Champion, and the other team captained by Rhea Ripley. I look for it to be 5-on-5. I believe it's going to be 5-on-5, unless it's 4-on-4, but I would assume it's going to be 5-on-5. It's from what I've heard, it's going to be Shayna Baszler captaining her team with Marina Shafir, Jessamine Duke, okay, the other two of the horsewomen of MMA. I don't think Ronda Rousey will be back for it, and I doubt they would put her on NXT, although stranger things have happened. And they're going to be teaming with Bianca Belair and Io Shirai against team captained by Rhea Ripley with Dakota Kai, Tegan Nox, Candice LeRae, and I would assume it's going to be either Piper Niven, I believe that's her name, from NXT UK, or Toni Storm. So one of those two women will round out those teams. I mean, unless they do 4-on-4 and they leave off. Oh, and there's also Mia Yim in the picture as well. So they do have a hot women's division on NXT. And I'm not just talking about looks. I'm talking about it's on fire right now. The athleticism, the competition itself is great with the women of NXT. Also, and that's the big edge that NXT has over AEW is the AEW women's division just sucks. Because half the time they're parading out girls that nobody's heard of. I mean, Riho, until the Double or Nothing, nobody's ever heard of Riho, at least as far as I know, unless you're in Japan. And she's 98 pounds soaking wet. How is that believable that she would beat someone like Nyla Rose, who hasn't been on TV in a couple weeks? I don't think Nyla Rose has been on TV since the first Dynamite, which is crazy. Or maybe the second Dynamite. No, I think it's first Dynamite. And we haven't seen her since. Maybe she's been on Dark, but Dark isn't watched by everybody. So Nyla Rose is your main attraction for the women's division, and you're not using her on TV. Yet you've had Britt Baker, who you think she's a dentist. After all the times they freaking announced that. But, I mean, come on. Her full name is Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. So right there, you know she's a doctor of medical dentistry. But whatever, it is. It is what it is. Anyways, I do want to say that the NXT Women's Division is on fire and it's awesome. I really like it. I like where they're going with the men too. That War Game should be set pretty soon as well. And you're going to end up seeing the Undisputed Era, Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly take on Tommaso Ciampa, Keith Lee, Matt Riddle, and more likely Dominic Dijakovic. I would have said put Johnny Gargano in there, but I have a feeling it's going to be Gargano against Finn Balor at Takeover. So he won't be able to go, neither one of them will be in the actual War Games. So I would assume those are going to be the teams going for War Games, and I really, truly like War Games. I do. I am a huge, especially how they've evolved it. I think it's great. I honestly don't know why the WWE didn't use it earlier. Like, they should have set it up. They should have actually had a War Games match between the WWE and the ECW WCW Alliance back in 2002. So that's how much I like it. But whatever. Either way, I'm happy to see it. I'm excited where WWE is going. For those of you who are constant WWE complainers, here's a simple solution. Turn the show off. Don't watch it. Instead of going on Twitter and flooding my timeline with toxic WWE non-truths and half-truth and just garbage, just don't watch it. But the fact that you're still watching it and complaining is the fact that they're making, you're doing something. And instead of taking the action, I would say take the non-action and just don't watch. I critique AEW and NXT and WWE, but I'll never complain too much other than, and even still, when I see something I don't like, I change the channel. Like an Orange Cassidy or the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega. So, that's what that is. So like I said, you don't like it, don't watch it. But that's it. Thank you for listening for today. My name is Vinny Apicella. You can find me on Twitter at VApicella SWE. Find the SportsWire on Twitter and Instagram at SportsWire Audio. You can also go to YouTube, youtube.com/SportsWire Audio. These shows go up there as, I believe they do. Maybe not. I don't know. I have to check. But if not, they will. They'll start going up again. Also, I want to just thank you all for listening. Go to email us, sportswireaudio@gmail.com. Go to www.sportswireaudio.com. That does bring you to the anchor.fm page. And go ahead and help sponsor the show or just support the show any way you can. And have a great day. I appreciate the listening and the talking. And give us some feedback. Give us a 5-star review. And enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the rest of your day. I will be back tomorrow with another episode of the Sports Wire.